And good afternoon, Deontay, and good morning to the people on the West Coast.
Yes. Great afternoon to you. Great to see you. As a matter of fact, happy December as well.
Yes, it is.
Tis the season to be debating.
Always.
Yeah. It's
And I have a feeling that we have a lot to debate this week.
oh yeah, this is gonna be crazy. So I probably should say this. This is white to the point, a black and forth conversation. That's Boomer Jim, and I am Gen X Deontay.
Last week, or during the course of the week, Deontay said something to me that I found somewhat amazing. Uh, First off, Deontay is just a wealth of trivia about movies and actors. I mean, ask him almost anything, he knows it. But he told me he had never seen Mississippi Burning. So he watched it during the week with the blonde bombshell, as he likes to call her. And she is a blonde bombshell. So we'll be talking about that today. But also, before we get into that, I found a clip that struck me odd. It's baby boomer life skills that are useless today. And I'm not so sure that they are. So I'm going to bring that up. And by the way, we are live streaming on both Facebook and YouTube today. So if you're on Facebook and wish to participate in the chat, please find us over on YouTube under White to the Point, and we'll be happy to answer your comments. So, without further ado, bring this up and see what Deontay
There used to
thinks.
be certain skills that were taught to us that prepared us for living a productive life. These were things that our parents would pass along. Maybe they were even taught to us in school, or maybe we just figured them out ourselves. But regardless, they were essential to us. Nowadays, many of these life skills have been abandoned, especially with newer generations. So let's take a look back at these baby boomer life skills that seem useless today.
One of the things that caught me right up the top is obviously I recognize the clothing and the appearance, but as this clip went on, I realized it was all white people. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this wasn't just the white neighborhoods or the white schools or anything. This was everybody. So,
Who among us doesn't remember the days when we had to memorize phone numbers? It certainly tested our memory, keeping track of our home phone number, friends' numbers, and select family members. Knowing these by heart was a necessity, especially when it came to making any phone call, and most importantly, if you were stranded by a payphone. It's hard to believe that we once kept all of these numbers stored right in our head, while all the other important phone numbers were written down on a list somewhere by the telephone.
isn't that still true today? I mean, my wife had her phone stolen uh, a couple of months ago. Now she has to try to recover all of the numbers that she had stored. Or what if you get thrown in jail for some reason? You don't get to use your cell phone, right? So, I mean, there's some phone numbers you better know.
Yeah, first of all, this anything from the 50s, the 60s, or before that is so antiquated thinking. So the idea that it would fit into today's world is like thinking that riding horses as a means of transportation permanently for non for the non category of the Amish. That's completely and totally just not the way it is. So
What was funny is I still know my phone number from when I was a kid growing up.
wow, me too.
OUA 0058.
That's incredible.
That's just numbers that you know.
I don't know. Well, mine is 681-4971.
Back then, we just didn't have the luxury of knowing who was calling, so there was no screening our phone calls. When the phone rang, we answered it, no matter who was on the other end. And taking down messages for the other people in the household was all part of the process. It was polite and helpful to the person calling.
Thank
to
you,
ensure they would get
voicemail.
a return phone call. No call would go to waste, because who knew what important message might be on the other end. Recollection Road is proud to partner with Legacy Box. Get early access to the best deal of the year. Watch until the end of this video to see why Legacy Box is the perfect
I don't
gift
care
this
about who
holiday
Box has a
season.
legacy.
And then visit
I think
legacybox.com.
Herbert Bush's box has a legacy. Anyways, go ahead.
/recollection for an incredible 65% off. GPS and digital maps may have made our lives easier, but let's not forget the satisfaction of unfolding a paper map and plotting a course to somewhere new.
The satisfaction? Really? Have you ever tried to unfold a map in a car, even as a navigator, and seeing where the hell you're at and figuring out where the hell you want to go?
It's embarrassing. What
For
happens?
that,
You end up blinding yourself. So it's like check out to see where you're going, or just not know where you're going. But either way, you're going to be so screwed because if you check out where you're going, you're going to miss where you're headed because the
yeah,
windshield can be blocked.
thank you, Google Maps. Man, back in the day when I was working in field service, my best friend was a Thomas Brothers map book. I wish I would have had Google Maps back then.
Yeah.
Reading a paper map took skill and patience to study every inch of the map, plus be able to navigate in real time. When traffic, construction, or roadblocks popped up, you had to plot a new course on the fly. It wasn't easy, but at least you could never get lost. Road trips back then added an element of adventure, especially when you had someone riding along to help navigate. Sewing used to be a practical skill that was taught both at home and at school. Prior to mass-produced clothing available at every turn, many women would make their own clothes by using patterns and a trusty sewing machine. The sewing machine used to be a very important household device, and it got plenty of use over the years, and then it was probably passed down to you.
I don't know about you, Deontay, but my mom actually taught me to sew. She swore up and down I'd be a bachelor.
Well, you're too studly to be a bachelor. I tell you that right now, especially that. But well, I did learn how to sew, very basic stuff, but I never really had to use it. And the idea of having to sew everything myself for the rest of eternity, that I'm not okay with that. I need someone else, sort of like the blonde bombshell, for example. If she can sew, then that takes the guesswork out of it, and also me pricking my needle. The last thing I need is another little prick, if you know what I mean.
That sounds like the story of Sleeping Beauty. Prick your finger on a spinning wheel and go to sleep until your Prince Charming wakes you up with a true love's kiss.
Right.
Mending clothes, altering them, or even sewing your own shirts and trousers was a reflection of how we used to be much more self-sufficient. Not to mention, it saved a lot of money. Cursive writing, with its elegant swirls and loops, was a hallmark of our generation. It's a style that added a personal touch to both letters and documents, and was seen as a much quicker method for writing things down. The art of writing in cursive was something we grew up doing, first by seeing our parents write, and then officially learning how to do it in the early years of elementary school. Not only did it improve our fine motor skills, but it just looked more graceful, and seemed to carry with it a bit more of your own personality, which is something that text messaging just doesn't convey.
Now, I don't know about you, but when I look at old documents that are in elegant cursive writing, I have trouble reading them because they seem to be written more for the artistic appearance than to convey information. That's why I prefer printing myself. But what about you?
Yeah, printing is a lot more economically sound for me as far as the amount of time invested. It's more efficient. To be honest with you, cursive is something that, some of those words or some of those letters, I should say, are hard to actually write in cursive. Like, for example, have you seen a cursive Q, a cursive uppercase?
Yes.
It looks like a number two. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, depending on what style you want to use.
Yeah. And then the X, the uppercase X, it's humiliating. Although I do say that when done correctly, cursive looks really stylish and elegant. Unfortunately, most people do not do it correctly.
But how true is it today that many kids, if not most, cannot read cursive? I mean, it's sort of a standing joke
Yeah.
that uh, that kids today can't read cursive or can't drive a stick shift for that matter. But how true is that?
I think it's very true. I think nowadays, we have kids with short attention spans, and the schools are not like they used to be. I just think the whole educational system is really antiquated because, let's face it, what was working 40 years ago, 50 years ago, or even 20 years ago is probably not going to work now. Nothing else is the same as it was 20 years ago. Technology is not the same. And the social environment and how we connect with each other is not the same. So why does teaching and education have to be the same? So I just
Oh boy, and that just made me think of that movie we talked about it offline, but Lean on Me. Just like you watched Mississippi Burning, I went back and watched Lean on Me again, and I could go on about education for an hour, but let's get back to this.
Remember your first car? Learning to drive was a rite of passage as a teenager, and many of us learned to drive using a manual transmission. Some cars had a 3 on the tree column shift, while others had a stick shift with 4 on the floor. Driving back then required both feet and both hands, plus the wherewithal to know when to change gears. While automatic cars have become the norm, knowing how to drive a stick shift was a valuable skill and a true connection to the driving experience.
I sure didn't have a driving instructor that looked like that, or
yeah,
a car that looked like that.
yeah, it would have been hard to have a driving instructor that looked like that because you would never be able to drive from the back seat.
No, in fact, they used to teach driving in high school. I don't know. I don't know whether or not they still teach that in high school or not.
No, they don't. I mean, I just know when I was in high school, I did driver's ed, and it was a nightmare.
No, I first learned to drive. Actually, I was about 8 years old. It was on my uncle's farm, driving an old 1938 Ford tractor.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, during the summer, I'd spend my summers on his farm, and they would take the youngest kid, put him up on the tractor, and I'd drive, and then the older people, the older kids, and the adults would be back on the tractor, pitching bales of hay. And after a couple of years of driving, when I was old enough and strong enough, they put me back on the tractor, and then they had a new kid up on the tractor.
Yeah.
But that's the way which I learned to drive.
Yikes.
Balancing your checkbook was taught to us because it was the foundation for financial responsibility. Our income and all of our expenses were reviewed at least once a month to keep things accurate. This skill taught us the value of money and helped us to live within our means, which is something missing in today's world. With credit and debit cards making spending easier and easier, many young people nowadays lack the fundamental financial literacy of balancing a simple checking account.
I don't know about that being a lost skill. I mean, on my bank, they still have the check boxes and such that you can reconcile your account. And even today, with all of the electronic transactions, a purchase can still take a day or two to clear, which is one of the reasons why I buy everything on a credit card and then pay the credit card bill every day. I pay whatever's due every day, keep it paid down to zero. But quite often, the balance lags by 2 or even 3 days. But I don't use my debit card because, again, sometimes the actual balance showing lags behind what's really there. What's been your experience on that?
Well, considering that I'm not nearly as elite as you are when it comes to having perfect checking account records and all that kind of stuff, mine has been all over the place. So I'm like the worst person to ask. Now, if you ask me in 3 years, I'll say, "Oh, it's as smooth as Grey Poupon," you know.
Oh, believe me, I'm very, very happy not to have to wait a month between statements before I can actually reconcile the checkbook.
Yeah,
Yeah, all you have to do is just forget one check, one entry, and you're bouncing checks. And unlike today, you couldn't cover that check fast enough. At least today, if I should overdraw an account, at least I can make a transfer right then and there, and they're not going to tag me with that $35 bounce check fee.
speaking of overdrafting checks, I think we've overdrafted this episode. We're 1 minute past our deadline time. Oh wow,
Oh shit.
yeah, yeah, because you're
Okay.
yeah, because you're droning on with this.
Before the internet, we all relied on our alphabet skills to find things, from looking up a definition in a dictionary to running our fingers
Well,
down a card catalog at
we
the
get the
library.
point here.
It seemed everything was organized alphabetically. Do you remember doing research?
Jim, we got
In that
30 seconds.
I'm going to head over to Mississippi Burning here.
This is humiliating. We're losing audience members. I'm watching now. Like we had 12, now we have one watching. It's okay though. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay, Jim. It's fine. This won't be the last bad choice today.
I'll tell you what. Let me queue up this next one. Get this going. Let's see which one I want to go with.
That's kind of embarrassing. Go with the one
Yeah,
that's
here we go. Well, this is pretty much the almost at the very beginning.
yeah. We can play maybe 30 seconds.
I think we'll be going for more than that. So here we go.
Now listen, you communists and niggers and Jews, tell all your buddies to spread the news. Today judgment will soon be nigh, as the Lord in his wisdom looks down from on high. Will his battle be lost by mixing the races? We want beautiful babies, not ones with brown faces. Never, never, never I say, for the Ku Klux Klan is here to stay. Never, never, never I say, cause the Ku Klux Klan is here to stay. These Ku Kluxers are better with lynchings than they are with lyrics.
Just read the file, Mr. Anderson. I can do without the cabaret.
You don't like me much, do you, boss?
Sure, I like you. I just don't share your sense of humor.
You know, we see a generational gap right there between Anderson and Ward, just in the sense of humor.
Exactly.
Sometimes that's all you got left. How long you been in the Bureau?
3 years.
Right out of college, huh?
No, from the Justice Department.
Kennedy boy, now I see.
No, I don't think you do see. Let's get this thing straight. I haven't had a pimple in years. I shave every morning. I even go to the bathroom by myself, so you can quit this boss stuff. They put me in charge because I've been through this before.
Birmingham, Montgomery?
Oxford. I was with Meredith at Ole Miss.
Oh, you got hit in the head with a brick, and so they gave you a promotion, right?
No, shot in the shoulder.
Well, at least you lived. That's important.
No, Meredith lived. That's what's important.
What's got 4 eyes and can't see?
What?
Mississippi. Never, never, never I say, because the Ku Klux Klan is here too.
So, what did you think of that movie, Deontay?
Well, I thought that it was, first of all, it was disgusting. It was sickening because it depicted the reality of what it was like for African Americans in the 1960s and even before that. But since this was set in the 1960s, it did a great job really depicting it. This it wasn't a true story; it was based loosely on a true story, but it was close enough. And the fact that there was so much despicable language in there, and it was accurate, it was spot on. That's the thing that's why I say a lot of the things I say when I'm saying, oh yeah, get those colored people out of there and stuff like that. I'm saying that mocking white people. There was a part where the one cop was asked what NAACP stands for, and then
Yeah.
and then he said niggers, apes, alligators, coons, and possums. And if it wasn't so, the thing that was so hilarious about it was the fact that people like that, they take themselves seriously. If I said something like that, I'd be just making a joke, mocking someone. But these are things that these people actually believe. And it's appalling, but I choose to look at it like, oh my God, this is so funny because this imbecile thinks he's being a wise guy. He's taking this seriously, and he really views that kind of thing in that way. So it was despicable, but I think it's something everyone should see. And the whole idea that, oh, racism is back then, it's no longer. You guys need to get over it and things like that. And when you hear that kind of language from people, it's called being tone deaf. It's called being tone deaf and also having a lack of self-awareness. And that to me, even though the movie is 35 years old, it's a microcosm of what's still going on in the world.
Exactly. That's like what I was saying last week when I was telling that story about that restaurant in South Carolina. When I watch this, I see that restaurant scene here is almost the exact same thing, and that happened back is in the 90s
Yeah.
or in the late 80s. I mean, what the hell? Nothing's really changed. Now, the thing about this movie I like is that I tend to identify with Gene Hackman and his character because he started out as a small town sheriff in Mississippi, where he probably talked the same way at one point or felt the same way, but then changed over time. Whereas Ward apparently started out with the more enlightened view. So I can identify with the Hackman on this one. Like I say, when I was a kid, I grew up in that environment to some extent, given my parents.
So you
It's
were, you
taking
were
time.
so you were firing off N bombs like you're firing off these cigarettes now.
Well, I wasn't firing off N bombs, but there was a couple here and there. But again, it's something that you need to learn over time, or it should say you need to unlearn over time.
So I just think,
As-
go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like somebody else said here in the movie, and what we hear all along. Hate is not something you're born with. It's something you're taught.
Yeah.
And that's something this movie brings out very clear in that political rally scene that's basically a KKK meeting, where
Yeah.
they're showing those little kids listening with rapt attention to what their elders have to say.
And so when the blonde bombshell and I were watching this the other day, there obviously are several scenes in this film where they are depicting lynchings, and she had to turn her head several times. She said, I just hate stuff like this. I hate stuff like this. I said, well, I mean, imagine if you hate stuff like this, how me as a black person feels about that. And so my whole thing is, I will never understand racism. I will always think it's the biggest joke in history because it's basically the same thing as you have let's say a Mustang car. You got a red Mustang right here. You got a blue Mustang right here, and then because you like red, you look at the blue Mustang as being something other than what the red Mustang is, just because it's a different color. And then what you don't realize is that the only thing that will make the Mustang undesirable, the blue Mustang undesirable, is that, let's say it didn't have an engine in it. But on the outside, you can tell that. So other than that, the car being a different color doesn't make it an undesirable choice. but it's what it doesn't have on the inside, which in this case would be an engine, that makes it an undesirable choice. In other words, like Martin Luther King said, it's not about the color of the skin, it's about the content of the character. So therefore, a white person, a black person, a Hispanic person, a Chinese person, any of these types of people, they can be of ill repute if on the inside they sucked, but on the outside there should be a brotherhood and a sisterhood no matter what the race is. And the fact that these bigots feel that your skin is your sin, that right there tells me that they are the dumbest people that you'll ever come across. That's why I'll never understand racism.
Yeah, and actually, I actually agree with you in that I don't understand it. Not completely. To some extent, I can understand. To some extent, I can see the birds of a feather mentality, but that's really more of the. But in actuality, it's more of, well, people who are jerks like to hang together. People who are, I'm going to say assholes hang together. I mean, look at the Klan. But most people, I would like to think, really don't care. At least in theory, we don't care about the outward appearances. And that's, to be honest, that's one reason why I've always felt uncomfortable when you make certain kinds of jokes. Because I'm not in that group. Yeah, my parents might have been. I might have been raised in that environment, but I would like to think I managed to avoid it to a large extent and came around to seeing the truth. Because it would have been easier to go down the other way.
Well, I tell you what, I would take your discomfort in hearing my jokes than my discomfort at having to worry about real things happening. So I'll trade you discomforts.
Yeah, understood. Understood.
I don't know.
Although we both have our own discomforts. As we mentioned, just walking through certain neighborhoods at night.
Yeah, I mean, listen, let's be honest about it. I mean, we're all human, so therefore we're going to have typical regular human emotions. But I think that the emotion should come from a legitimate place, not just because of something that was passed down to you from an ancestor or from a friend or someone in the streets. You know, if you have some nervousness about going into a particular neighborhood, I don't really have a problem with that because, you know, certain neighborhoods are depicted as being dangerous, and it's good to be on your guard and to prevent whatever negative situation you can. Now, things can happen in any neighborhood, no matter what the status of that neighborhood is, the demographic, and you know the economics. But with that being said, I don't think there's anything wrong with being on guard. You probably should be on guard in every neighborhood for different reasons. But as far as just flat out racism, just because people's skin color is a certain way, that's a little bit different and that's silly. And like I was telling the Blonde Bombshell, the people you see in the 60s being the way they were, they raised the people that raised the people that raised the people that are here now. So you know good and well, some of those beliefs are going to stay in there. They're going to be generational, and then other ones, there's going to be some people that's going to, you know, not be raised that way, and maybe was tried to be raised that way, but then they were able to go and seek their own knowledge about things and have their own approach, and not just be a follower.
So the question is, how do we stop it? Because even today we see the skinheads and the neo-Nazis. We see gangs. What do we do to stop it?
Maybe we should ask Solomon. Solomon's is actually here now watching. So maybe we should ask him how we stop it. You know, Solomon, you can get into the chat if you want, but To be honest with you, I don't think there's any stopping it. I just think that it's just it's going to change shape. Like we didn't stop the rotary phone. You know, we just stopped that version of it. You know, it's you know what I'm saying? Like it takes a different shape. And just like racism and discrimination takes a different shape depending on the situation and the circumstances.
Yeah. Well, I say this movie is one that's has always had a profound impact on me, or a profound resonance, I should say. It's just, uh, even though the details are not 100% as far as the actual facts, the attitude, the environment, all of that is just exactly like what it was. It wasn't just small towns in the South. You saw that in the big cities. You saw that in L.A. You saw it in Kansas City. You saw it in Chicago. Hell, you still see it today in the big cities.
Yeah, and just looking at the movie and hearing some of the dialogue of the characters that were representative of people living in the 1960s South, it was cringeworthy because that is exactly how it really is and how exactly it really was. And people still to this day, I think people think that if you go to Mississippi that stuff doesn't happen. I promise you there are still lynchings happening in 2023. I promise you that people are wearing ropes around their necks and they'll never be heard from again. If they didn't employ all of those people to try to find those civil rights workers in the movie, they would have never turned up. You don't think people can do that now? Make people disappear because they murdered them? I mean, hate runs deep. It runs very deep. Hate, jealousy, envy, all of those things run deep. And so, of course, that stuff is still happening.
Yeah, there's no doubt that it does. We hear about it every day, and on a something similar, we're seeing it right now today with the Israeli-Hamas conflict.
Yeah,
we're seeing that hatred, and these are two people who are basically from the same family when it comes right down to it. They're both Semites.
yeah.
They're cousins.
Did you see what Solomon wrote? Solomon just answered your question
Uh,
in the chat. Yeah, he says if the world concentrates on prayer and doing things in a better way as much as they worry about voting, the world will be a better place. And see, I know you don't care about prayer, but I mean that's a real powerful thing, especially in the Black community. He also says that it's not going to go away; it's still going on.
Yeah, it is. Well, hopefully, not to be too blunt about it, but hopefully just you and I talking like this, being able to talk like this, and being friends can help show people it doesn't have to be hate.
Yeah.
Even when you and I disagree on something, it doesn't have to be hate. It could be understanding.
Yeah. Now I will tell you this: I do have a water fountain in my kitchen that says white only, but that's because it's the Blonde Bombshells water fountain. It doesn't mean I can't drink from it, but it does say white only. And for the record, she is not happy with that. But,
I wouldn't think so. I know I would be. I'd find that disturbing.
it's okay because on the flip side, I have something on next to the cornbread and the black eyed peas that says black only, so she can't touch that. So we're actually being very, very reasonable.
Well, I tell you what, you wouldn't keep me away from cornbread with just a sign.
See, I knew you had some NAACP in you.
Hey, like I said, my folks were born in Missouri and Iowa. I grew up on cornbread.
Well, that's perfect. That explains you getting pulled over that one time in the 70s when people thought you had an afro, but it was really you having stacks of cornbread under your hat. Solomon says that we are all the same color underneath.
Yep, we're all going to bleed red, pure and simple.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I tell you what, man, I'm really proud that you've been able to mostly overcome your supremacy, because like I really believe that you think that we are almost on the same level as people. I believe you think that sometimes.
It's not just sometimes, but overcome. Yeah, I bristled a little bit right then when you said that uh, inside, but yeah, to be honest, it, it's something to overcome, to get past,
Yeah,
to unlearn,
and
and
I'm not even mad that you sent me this book that you wrote about keeping whites and blacks separate. It's called "Stick with Your Own Kind." So I do appreciate you sending me this book, but you know,
for what it's worth, people, that's Deontay's book. He wrote that along with six others. Plus, he's worked with other people on books. He is an accomplished author, a publicist. Deontay can take a lot of credit for things he's put out there.
uh, uh, I will tell you this. I appreciate you, man. Like I said, we have to have this kind of dissertation, for these topics, these hot button topics. Trump's going to be in the White House again, so we have to figure out a way to, calibrate our excitement or whatever side of the fence you're on. You see this, this right here. This means the South will rise again. That's what it actually means. If you actually translate "Make America Great Again" in Hebrew, it actually means, the South will rise again. And if you speak Mar-a-Lagoan, it means "Make America Great Again, the South will rise again."
Oh, man. I'm glad I know that you're saying that in just for the most part. For the most part.
It's okay, man. Listen, Trump is going to be in the White House because there is no bigger genius. I mean, think about it. Trump is so good that even with being in shackles and facing more charges than R. Kelly, he is still he's the front runner for president. I mean, R. Kelly wouldn't be the leading front runner if he had they have the same amount of charges.
That's something I don't get. I mean, the Democrats, they keep coming after Trump time and time again, every way they can in the courts. And every time they do, Trump's numbers go up.
Exactly.
Because the only way I can explain it is that people see this as a political witch hunt. Now, has Trump done things that are wrong or bad? Of course he has. Has he done things that should disqualify him? That hasn't been proven. But the fact that they're trying so hard just keeps driving people who wouldn't otherwise care for Trump that much over to his side, because why? America loves an underdog. They see somebody being picked on, they want to defend him. Now, will they actually vote for him? That's yet to be seen. But one thing I do know is that Biden is losing support left and right.
Yeah, Biden is losing support worse than my girlfriend's bra that's messing with me. Yeah, the underwire sucks right now, so she's losing a lot of support.
No, I actually watched the debate the other night between DeSantis and Newsom. I don't care for DeSantis that much. I really don't. But Newsom, they put the numbers on screen, the actual crime numbers in California versus Florida. And Newsom is saying that California has the lowest rate of crime that it's had for 50 years.
Exactly.
Newsom, you're lying through your teeth.
If you think that's something, we got another one from Solomon. Solomon is going to be our He's going to be our resident like genius, the person we go to. Solomon says that Trump has too much power and everything is already set up the way they want it to be.
Well, personally, I don't think he's going to be elected president. I think something's going to happen. My bet is that we're going to see Nikki Haley running for president, being the nominee. And on the Democrat side, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Newsom got drafted at the Democrat convention. Just the day of convention. Because I don't think the Democrats can have a chance in hell if they put up either Biden or Harris.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I actually think that Robert Kennedy. I think he has a better chance than anybody.
Well, he's running as a third party or as an independent now, and yeah, he's going to throw a monkey wrench in things. In fact, there's some polls where he's polling higher than either Biden or Trump. So
that's misleading. I mean, if I was to run for president, I'd be running higher than anybody in my household. That doesn't mean that I'm gonna have a snowball chance in hell,
But no, that's going to be a monkey wrench. Plus, I can't remember his name now. There's a Democrat who's trying to primary Biden.
It's embarrassing.
And he's getting big numbers. And then you've got Manchin, who may or may not come in as a third party under the No Labels group.
Well, the funny thing is that this is how bad the country is messed up. Is that if you were to run for president, you would be the youngest by far in years. And that's not even a joke. That's true. Like you would be.
Well, no, Haley and RFK Jr., they're both younger than I am. But I'm definitely younger than Trump or Biden.
Yeah, but I'm talking about people that have a real chance. And we all know that the white man that looks like a Klan member is going to have the biggest chance. Nikki Haley is too pretty. She's also a girl. Robert Kennedy, he's a little unhinged. He doesn't look like sinister enough. So you look like what America wants.
Yeah, what Solomon's saying here.
Yeah, he's
putting on the show to cover up other things and get controversy going. And the more people talk about them like we are doing now, their numbers are constantly going up. You're right. They say there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Exactly. That's something.
Well, on that note, this is our longest one yet, so we're going to need to wrap it up. Deontay, as always, I think it's been fun talking. We have some ideas for next week. Folks, if you're on Facebook, please hop over to the YouTube channel, hit that like and subscribe. Help contribute to what eventually is going to be Deontay's retirement fund. if we can get this channel monetized, because that's one of the goals.
The Blonde Bombshell needs a 2024 vehicle.
I just need to make enough money to buy some more cigarettes.
Oh, well, that's going to be more than a 2024 vehicle. That's going to cost more.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, people, be good people. I think that's the main thing we're saying is watch that movie, Mississippi Burning. Get a picture of what it was like back in the 60s when I was growing up. Keep in mind, every time you think about the hippies and Haight-Ashbury, the Summer of Love, we're all boomers. And when you see those pictures, keep in mind, we're all boomers today. So it's not isolated from today. Y'all take care. Deontay, have a good one.
We got to bid Solomon a goodbye. He's contributed.
You're right. Solomon, thank you. Next time you come in, we might even send you an invite, get you here on screen with us.
Yeah, that'll be great. I got to go run my fingers through the blonde bombshell's hair now.
Later.
All right, man.